welcome back. Two game time decision. Packed week this week because at the end of this week we have one of my cohorts here favorite time of the year with the NFL draft.
Yes,
So we'll
finally.
have a little bit of that MLB, NASCAR, and F1. But before we get into all that, you've heard of Mel Kiper's mock draft and you've seen PFP's mock draft and all the NFL mock drafts, but you've never seen Mad Micah's mock draft. So that's what we're going
Yes,
to
we
do here
got the
first.
inaugural one today.
Yes, the first Micah mock draft, MMD. I can't think of anything to do with that, but let's just get into it. What do you
All right,
got that I can be mad at and yell at you for?
let's get into it. So it's going to start with the Chicago Bears, and I think as soon as Justin Fields was traded, everyone knew this was Caleb Williams. It's not going to be Drake May. It's not going to be Jaden Daniels. It's Caleb Williams all day to the Bears. He has great talent creating on the run, so that's really what they're looking for. Big playmaker type guy.
How do you feel about some of the off field stuff about him wanting ownership that's not going to happen,
Well,
and the things that you get with drafting Caleb Williams?
I think a lot of that stuff was frankly pushed by his dad more so than Caleb Williams himself. I have not seen a lot from Caleb Williams from like, oh, this is concerning to me. So I think the player is so good that you definitely still take him. Although he's actually not my QB1 in this year's draft, oddly enough. But the Washington Commanders are up next, and I'm going to have them taking Jaden Daniels. I know the odds on this changed a lot, where now Drake May is heavily favored to go to them instead, but I still think that if you're going to bring in Marcus Mariota in the offseason, there's a reason for that. You're going to bring him in because he has a more similar play style to the guy you
Right.
do want in Jaden Daniels, so I think that's why he's going to go there, but obviously it's hard to predict. This could go either way. And then at 3 for the Patriots, it is going to be Drake May. And Drake May is actually my QB1 in this year's class, absolute rocket arm, and he can improvise. A lot of people say he can't improvise. They talk about Caleb Williams' improvisational skill. Go look up Drake May highlights on the run. You're going to have a good time. He
Right.
threw a left-handed touchdown versus Pitt this year. I don't know how much you know about Drake May. He's a right-handed quarterback.
Yeah.
So
No, I've
he's absolutely insane, absolute rocket arm. And for those complaining about the numbers at North Carolina, he had statistically a bottom 5 offensive line in college football, and then all his receiving talent left. And he finally got a competent receiver after 7 weeks when Tez Walker was finally allowed to play with the NCAA. So,
I'm with you. I think Mayor Daniels is going to be the top QB to end up coming out of this draft
mm-hmm.
class. I'm 100%. I think Daniels at first, the first maybe 4 years, you see more numbers from Daniels. But after that,
Yeah,
I think May has a higher ceiling.
yeah, I definitely think that any 3 of these quarterbacks have a good chance to be really good. Although, one thing I do want to say right quick, people whose hot take is that such and such quarterback will be a bust, with any quarterback ever, I don't care what prospect it is, saying they're a bust is not a hot take. The hit rate on QB prospects is so incredibly low that you never know how these guys are going to do. All 3 of these guys could be terrible, and I wouldn't be overly surprised because that's just how it is with quarterbacks in the NFL. But
And I feel like we're seeing more and more of that today.
yeah. Then moving on to the Cardinals at number 4, it's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. He just is the best receiver in this class. Some of the best body control I've ever seen from a receiver. Kind of reminds you of AJ Green, where he's not necessarily going to blow you away with the pure athleticism. Don't get me wrong, he's still a very good athlete, but it's just his technique as a receiver. He's so fluid and is elite at tracking the ball in the air, going up, making the catch. Then at number 5, we're actually going to have a trade. I have the Los Angeles Chargers trading out with the Minnesota Vikings. And I think the Vikings got this 23rd overall pick from Cleveland to use it to move up in the draft. And I think they're doing so for a quarterback. This is a pick that I don't think a lot of people are going to like.
I know what you're going to say.
We're going J.J. McCarthy at 5.
No,
And
no shot.
I know you say no shot, but NFL teams draft on traits. The Vikings are desperate for a quarterback. Their current starter is Sam Darnold. J.J. McCarthy's only 21 years old. He has a huge arm. His downfield accuracy is a concern, but in big spots at Michigan, when he actually was asked to throw on 3rd down, in the middle of the field, he was consistently able to make those throws. So the sample size is really small. That is, I I don't think it's his fault. Michigan's offense is just so run oriented that you're not going to ask McCarthy to throw the ball a ton.
Well, I think if we have another Will Levis situation like we did last year, where we thought all these quarterbacks are going to go in the first round, and then we just sit there and we keep watching Will Levis and his girlfriend, like they just keep cutting to him every pick. Like, is it going to be Will Levis? Is it going to be? And it never was Will Levis. If
Yeah,
that happens with the quarterback, it's going to be JJ McCarthy. I
no,
just
no way.
don't see the Vikings trading up to a 5 spot, just because I think they're kind of thinking, well, they're fairly certain he's still going to be on the board. Come, what pick would they have? They would have the 11th pick right now. So, I mean,
See, the issue with saying he's still going to be on the board, the Giants could take a quarterback. Any of the other teams behind the Vikings as well, the Broncos could trade it for a QB, the Raiders could trade it for a QB. So you can't take it for granted that he's going to be there. And I think that's why you trade for that number 23 overall pick to go up and make sure you get your guy. Because, like it or not, that's just how valuable quarterbacks are in the NFL.
yeah, no. Well, that's one. That's JJ McCarthy's most interesting and unique piece to
Yeah.
this first or second round draft that I'm excited to see.
Then at number 6 for the Giants, I'm going Rome Odunze, receiver out of Washington. This is just a monster deep threat, amazing threat down the field, something the Giants have not had in a very, very, very long time. Like even Odell Beckham wasn't the kind of height, weight, speed freak that Rome Odunze is. So I think that really it gives Daniel Jones his last chance. If you're not able to produce with a guy like Rome Odunze in the lineup, you are definitely the problem. And I just the Giants need this kind of threat at receiver, and I know a lot of people are going to want Malik Neighbors here. If you're a Giants fan, apparently the Giants like Malik Neighbors, but there's been some off the field stuff with him about an arrest in early of 2023 on Bourbon Street. Some concerns of him going to a big city. I don't know how true those are, but if those do hold substance, I'm going Romo Dunze for the Giants. Then moving on to the Titans, it's Joe Alt all day, every day. They need tackle horrendously, and Joe Alt is just the best one, plain and simple. Super polished as a pass protector and a run blocker, so I think that pick is pretty straightforward. Then down to the Falcons at 8, it's going to be Jared Verse. Now, this is a weird one because if I were the Falcons GM, I'm turning in the card for Dallas Turner instantly here. However, the Falcons appear to like Jared Verse and maybe now even Laiatu Latu it's come out as. So if you look at Jared Verse versus who new Falcons head coach Raheem Morris took as a DC last year and the Rams took Byron Young, they're almost identical in terms of physical makeup. So that's what makes me lean Verse here. I think he's going to want a similar guy. And then Verse is much more polished of a prospect than Young was anyway. Has very powerful hands, very solid presence off the edge. Can struggle to anchor versus the run at times, but as a pure speed to power guy off the edge is elite.
I don't know. I don't see Verse going above Dallas Turner or Latu. I mean Turner has I think the biggest I guess uh, book you can say like the most stats or whatever. But even the guy like Latu, I mean just super high ceiling, a lot of talent. So
Yeah.
I think even Latu is going to go above Verse.
And you know what? As far as the talent, I completely agree with you. I completely agree that I would have Verse rated as edge 3 below those two guys, but it appears the Falcons really like him. So for mock draft's sake, he goes at 8 right now. Then back to the Bears at number 9. This is where I think Malik Neighbors goes. I know a lot of people are going to say, are Bears really still going to take a receiver? You trade for Keenan Allen. You have DJ Moore. But the thing is, Keenan Allen, even though he's still great, he's older at this point. And then Malik Neighbors just gives you such a great after the catch threat that I really don't think either DJ Moore or Keenan Allen are at this point. So I still think Neighbors would be a great pick here. And then if you take Caleb Williams at 1, look at that receiving core you have set up for him. And then Cole Kmet at tight end. So I think that definitely makes sense to do if you're Chicago.
No, they definitely need some wide receiver help with Caleb Williams.
Yeah. And then at 10 for the Jets, this is a guy I've struggled to find a place for because I feel like he deserves to go higher than this based on how good he is as a prospect, but it's hard to find a team in the top 10 before the Jets to take him. It's going to be Brock Bowers. He's just such an elite tight end prospect. I would say he's not the same level of receiving threat as Kyle Pitts was, but he's a light years ahead of Kyle Pitts as a run blocker.
And they may also the Jets may use him if Aaron Rodgers gets tight end like that, he's not going to sit. Yeah. He's not going to sit back and not let him be used. Aaron Rodgers is going to have a field day with this guy.
Aaron Rodgers produced with Robert Tunyon for years, so think what he's going to do with Brock Bowers. And then that receiving core with Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, and now Brock Bowers, that is I think, a treat for Jets
If they can
fans.
last through the first quarter, they'll be fine.
Exactly. Yeah. Then the Chargers here at 11 via the trade with Minnesota, the mock trade. It's going to be Talisa Fuaga out of Oregon State. This is just a guy that's built for a Jim Harbaugh power run offense. Huge, powerful right tackle, people mover. Really is a perfect foil, in my opinion, to Rashawn Slater on the left side, who's your big blindside pass protecting anchor for Justin Herbert. And then on the right side, let Fuaga just go after people in the run game. So I like that fit a lot for the Chargers, and like I said, it's such a good fit for that Greg Roman offense and what Jim Harbaugh likes to do with that power run identity. Then at 12, we're going to have Dallas Turner going to the Broncos. This guy is just, you turn on the tape and he blows you away.
He's fun to watch.
It looks like he's built in a lab to play 3-4 outside linebacker. He's adept at tracking running backs into the flat, and at the same time, he can have lightning speed and then speed to power to get by offensive tackles and just make a QB's day terrible.
Mm-hmm.
He also has an elite secondary rush, so he's going to stay after a quarterback, even if his initial rush is kind of shut down. If a QB starts to scramble, he's going to keep his eye on him and make that secondary rush. So he's really good at negating scrambling QBs, which in today's NFL I think is really important. And then you look at a team like the Broncos in a division with Patrick Mahomes, you're going to want a guy that can negate a scrambling QB. So I think Dallas Turner fits that spot really well.
The Broncos, they unveiled new jerseys today. They're getting a lot of hate online. The old school ones,
Because they're terrible.
the old school
the
ones,
retro
are
ones are good, but
the retro ones are sweet. The new ones, but they put Broncos country like in the collar of the jersey.
You have to wonder if that was designed before Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I just thought like I saw that, I was like, that is awesome. Whether they meant to do that like when he was there or when he left or whatever, that's still just funny that they have Broncos country.
And now they've acquired Zach Wilson, so it can only get worse.
Yeah. If you're a Broncos fan, the future is dim.
Yeah, moving on to a slightly better AFC West team. It is the Raiders, who I have going Quinion Mitchell, corner out of Toledo. If you don't know much about Quinion Mitchell, this dude is a dog. An elite athlete, put up an elite score in the bench press for a corner, also ran a super quick 40 and the 4.3s, and he did it while weighing in close to 200 pounds. So this is not a guy that, like Nate Wiggins, is running a 40 at 172. He showed up built and still blitzed the combine, and the tape with him is also really good. He's strong off the line. He's fluid to track receivers. He's just overall really solid. Don't let Toledo scare you. The skills track over every level.
Yeah, I'd heard a little bit about him just because his numbers were so great last year in college, but it wasn't really to the combine where people started like going, this kid, like we've talked about him, but he's legit. Like we need to dive deeper into this kid because he's gonna be a star, and I'm really hoping the best for him because his stuff is just incredible.
Yeah, you would just hate to see him get relegated to Vegas though, but that secondary needs help badly.
Yeah.
Then over to the Saints, it's going to be an offensive tackle for them. It's going to be Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. It is pronounced Fashanu, by the way. Olu said it himself, so for everyone's saying, it's Fashanu, it's not. But they desperately need help at tackle, the Saints do. Ryan Ramczyk apparently has some knee injury stuff going on. You don't know if he'll be forced to retire or not. Trevor Penning has not been great, their recent draft pick on the other side, but Fashanu is going to be a good pass protector for you right away. He still has a ways to go in the run blocking department, and he can struggle sometimes versus pure power off the edge. But as far as defending your finesse edge rushers, he is close to the best in this class. So I definitely think he would be a good fit for New Orleans. Then moving on to the Colts, this is a fun pick here. It is Brian Thomas Jr., receiver out of LSU. And I know Malik Neighbors is getting all the hype for LSU receivers, but Brian Thomas led the NCAA in touchdowns this past year. His 40 was insanely fast, ran in the low 4.3s, and he looks even faster on tape. His play speed is absolutely ridiculous. This is another just burn you down the field deep threat, and he's such a good foil for this Colts receiving core. You have Michael Pittman, your typical X receiver, going to be able to go up and get it. Josh Downs is your slot, and now you add Brian Thomas Jr. as your Z, your deep threat.
Yeah, if this happens,
it's such a good fit.
That's an explosively fast offense, even with Richardson throwing the ball.
Yeah.
Because he can just take off whenever he wants to. That's just going to be a fun honestly a really fun offense to watch if they get another super speedy wide receiver.
Yeah.
Interesting to see what they can do with that.
And that's the Colts draft philosophy. You look, since Chris Ballard has been there, they've been drafting athlete after athlete after athlete, more so over these technicians. So definitely makes sense for me. Then at 16, the Seattle Seahawks, I have them going Troy Fautanu out of Washington. This is a guy who I think profiles really well as a guard. He has long enough arms to stick at tackle, but his movement skills, I think, would almost be wasted at tackle. He'd be such a good guard, is such a good athlete, and then for a team that lost Damian Lewis in free agency, I think he would slide right into that spot, fit it like a glove for a team that really needs interior offensive line help. And it's also a fun storyline to keep him in Washington, keep him in Seattle.
Yeah.
Then the Jaguars, I have going Terry and Arnold out of Alabama. Ran a 4.540 at the combine, which some people might be concerned about, but don't be. This dude is such a technician. He's elite in press man. He's going to be super feisty. You're not going to be able to get away from this guy. He just sticks to receivers like glue. Can sometimes be a little bit over physical. Think J.C. Horn, just a smaller guy than J.C. Horn was, but similar play style. And he's just another guy that's super fun to watch. This DB class this year is a very entertaining DB class to do tape study of. And the Jags need a guy on the other side of Tyson Campbell, and I think Arnold fits that role perfectly. Then on to the Bengals. It's going to be Johnny Newton out of Iowa. Or not Iowa. Goodness, I'm looking at Cooper DeJean on the board here. It's out of Illinois. He's a good pass rushing interior defensive lineman. He's slightly undersized, but he still is really going to be able to get after the quarterback. And that's something that's very valuable on that interior defensive line. And I don't want to say next Geno Atkins, but slightly undersized interior defensive lineman, high pass rush upside, Bengals. The comp is there. I don't think they're identical, but there's some connections to be made.
People will certainly try to draw that together, and we'll just see how he plays and see if he himself can draw that together.
If he can, that would be a great pick for them.
Oh, yeah.
Then on to the Rams, it's going to be Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. Wiggins can absolutely fly. He's very fluid in coverage, has fluid hips, great back and forth movement over the middle of the field. There's some concerns about him giving too much cushion where he almost relies on the athleticism too much, and he can struggle in run defense, but I really just want my corner to be able to cover, not defend the run as much. So that's, I think, what Nate Wiggins is. And for a Steelers team or for a Rams team that needs anything they can get in the secondary right now, I definitely think getting a big, fast CB1 type guy like Wiggins out there can really help them, especially you look at the losses they've had in recent years with Jalen Ramsey leaving that group, Darius Williams leaving and coming back. So I definitely think they need him.
Let's quickly go through your rest, because there's something on here, because I can look ahead and see. There's something on here I want to get to that may or may not happen. So let's get through these rests, and then we can argue about something.
All right. So number 20, the Steelers, I have going Amarius Mims out of Georgia. The tape on him is elite. If he had started multiple years, I think this is a top 10 pick. But the issue is he only has 8 college starts under his belt. It's the only reason he falls this low. The Steelers need another tackle. You put him on the opposite side of his teammate Broderick Jones. I think that's a good fit. Then the Dolphins, I've going Jackson Powers-Johnson out of Oregon. They need interior offensive line help badly. Powers-Johnson's a good offensive line signal caller, really going to be the glue that holds that line together. Very ready-made prospect. That's why you see a center going that high. I think he'll be great there. Then the Eagles, I have going Cooper DeJean out of Iowa. This is a guy that can play any position in the secondary that you want him to. He can play boundary corner, he can play slot corner, he can play over-the-top safety. You can do whatever you want him to do. He's a really, really good athlete, and he is a white boy, which you don't see much at corner, but you saw one last year from Iowa and Riley Moss going to the Broncos, and now we have part 2 in the very much upgraded version in DeJean.
Such an Iowa thing to do.
Yeah, I think that he would fit that Eagles group so well. Just a team that needs anything in the secondary. Why not get a guy that can do everything?
Right.
Then the Chargers again at 23 via, once again, the trade down with Minnesota via Cleveland, or via Texas via Cleveland. This pick has been passed around so many times. But I'm going to have the Chargers taking Adonai Mitchell, receiver out of Texas. They need receiver help badly. Yeah. It's Quentin Johnston and Joshua Palmer right now, which is a disaster zone. And A.D. Mitchell has a monster catch radius. He's going to be an elite down-the-field receiver as well. This is a guy that you can build the offense around. I think Justin Herbert really needs a guy like that. Then the Cowboys at 24, I'm going to have them going Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. This is a hyper athletic tackle, and I struggled on this pick a little bit because I was torn between him and J.C. Latham. And I just think the athletic profile of Guyton I like a bit better to the Cowboys than Latham's more kind of power, pure size approach. So for that reason, I'm going to slide Guyton in here instead of Latham. Then I have the Packers going Byron Murphy out of Texas. This is another guy up the middle that just has tremendous pass rush upside while also being a good run stopper. So the whole package, those guys go high. So I think the Packers need help on the interior, and you get a guy that can do that there. Then the Buccaneers at 26 take Laiatu Latu. Latu is actually my edge one in this year's class, but I think he's going to fall due to his injury stuff. Had to medically retire at Washington and then transferred to UCLA.
I don't think he falls, but we'll see.
I hope he doesn't fall. I would love to see him go top 10, but I think the injury stuff is just such a huge red flag. But I think he's the best edge rusher from this year's class. He has such an advanced pass rush plan. He's never going to get shut down initially. Always has counter moves to go to. Never gives up on the play. Is just an absolutely amazing edge rusher, and his tape matches too. He's an absolute beast off the edge. Absolutely ran the Pac-12. Then the Cardinals via Houston, I have going Chop Robinson, edge out of Penn State. Just a super freak athlete. Can absolutely fly off the edge, insane speed, and that's really something the Cardinals don't have, so I think they get help off the edge there. And then speaking of insane speed, I have the Bills taking Xavier Worthy out of Texas. Now, this might look like a bit of a reach, but for a Bills team that lost Stephon Diggs, I think you just want to get a guy that can win down the field right now, because you also lost Gabe Davis, your deep threat. Yeah. Not much in that receiver room right now, and what better fit for a guy in Josh Allen who can throw it almost the length of the whole football field than Xavier Worthy, who can run the whole length of the football field?
Yeah, I'm excited to watch him.
I think that's a good fit. Then the Lions at 29, I'm going Darius Robinson out of Missouri, another edge rusher. Can be inside, outside, flexible, very good for this multiple front the Lions run. I think he can do multiple things well for them. Then I finally have J.C. Latham going here to the Ravens at 30. I think he goes before pick 30. I just couldn't find a spot for it in this particular mock. I think he's definitely a player that could go even top 15. Just doesn't happen in this particular scenario, but Ravens need help at tackle, so he goes here. Then at 31, I have the 49ers going Graham Barton, tackle out of Duke. This is a guy that can play pretty much every position on the offensive line. I think he profiles best as a center in the league, but he could also be your Mike McGlinchey replacement, stick out there at tackle. I think he can just do anything for him. Then finally, the Chiefs, they need a receiver. We all know that. The issues with Rashee Rice, and then the rest of the receiver room is just bad. You signed Hollywood Brown. That doesn't move the needle for me, honestly. No. You need a guy that can catch. And really, you look at reliable pass catchers that I think could sneak into the first round left on the board here. It's Ladd McConkey, it's Keon Coleman, it's Roman Wilson, it's Ricky Pearsall. Keon Coleman, I think there's some questions about his athletic ability and production. I don't think the Chiefs would take a guy of Ladd McConkey's stature. I think he's a bit shorter than what they'd be looking for. So then it's Roman Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, and the tape on Pearsall is just better, in my opinion. So
I don't think the height stops the Chiefs at all. I mean, the guy Tyreek Hill, he's not tall at all.
Ladd McConkey's not Tyreek Hill fast, though.
Right, but if
you look at the rest of that receiving core, though, the rest of the receiving core is tiny.
They're pretty.
Hollywood Brown's a tiny guy. If Rashee Rice is even allowed to play, he's a tiny guy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why
Moore's a tiny guy. You're not going to keep drafting these tiny guys if none of them pan out.
Yeah, they might. They keep winning Super Bowls. They can do whatever they want.
That's true. Patrick Mahomes can do whatever he wants.
But I'm glad we're here, because you don't have Michael Penix Jr. in the first round at all.
Because he's bad. Okay, he's not bad, but let me explain this. He's 24 years old. He's had multiple season-ending injuries. If you actually watch the tape, not the highlights, the tape, he is not accurate on touch throws. His deep ball percentage accuracy is not actually that high. If you look at his I think it's adjusted deep ball accuracy rate. So it's adjusted accuracy on passes 20 yards or longer. The only quarterback in this class he's better at that than is J.J. McCarthy. He is very bad at deep balls. You look at the situation he was in. Rome Odunze, top 10 receiver. Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan are both guys that might even go in round 2. That's the best receiver trio in the country, in my opinion. Troy Fautanu is a tackle that'll end up going in the first round. Then Roger Rosengarten on the other side at tackle is another elite player.
The best offensive line in football. It's not.
Yeah, but it's traits. McCarthy's 3 years younger. He has a bigger arm, and over the middle of the field, he's actually more accurate.
No, the struggles with the touch I can see. He is not very pleasant.
Michael Penix has a strong arm, and when you get him throwing outside the numbers in the intermediate areas of the field, he throws laser beams, and they're super accurate. And the Washington offense was schemed around that. And then when you have 3 receivers with as big of catch radiuses as those guys do, and it's savvy route running, it's going to make a quarterback look really good. I don't want to say it's Kyle Trask at Florida, because I think Penix is definitely a much better prospect than that, but it's that similar thing of situation elevating a quarterback. I think Penix definitely goes on day 2, round 2 or 3, but
I think somebody grabs in the first round just because.
I don't think so. I think you would have to see a team like the Raiders, the Broncos trade up into either the late 20s or early 30s.
Yeah, I do agree with you that Bo Nix is not going first round.
I think Bo Nix is a better shot to go in the first round than Michael Penix does.
I was about to ask you, who do you think goes first, Penix or Nix?
I think there's a world where the Raiders or the Broncos take a shot on Bo Nix, just because Bo Nix doesn't have the injury concerns.
He's pretty old, though, too.
Yeah, he is. He's actually older than Michael Penix. Yeah. He's 2 months older, but it's the injury stuff. Michael Penix, I know he's played 2 healthy seasons now, but as a general rule, players don't get less injury prone over time. That's a big concern.
Yeah. No, I mean, we got, what, by the time y'all see this, 2 days till we figure out? And then next week we'll go back through and see how many you got right or wrong.
And the best thing about mock drafts is, maybe none of these are right. Maybe Michael Penix goes number 1 overall. But this is just an exercise to have fun with it. That's what mock drafts are for. You're just playing out scenarios and seeing what happens.
Yeah. No, I'm super excited to see how that goes, and very excited to make fun of you. I'm not saying JJ McCarthy goes after Penix, but I do think Penix just goes in the first round. I think someone just picks him up and grabs him, just as maybe as a backup for a little bit. But
we'll have to see.
Someone's gonna grab him. But let's move on to the MLB. Not a whole lot to talk about. We have a few things to talk about. Ohtani very recently passed Matsui for most home runs by a Japanese-born player at 176. And with that, Ohtani actually got the bat flip of the week. It was a very dull week for bat flips. Cunha had one on his one and only home run this year. But it was just, like he just kind of looked at his dugout and like angrily, like, I finally did it. Like, I told y'all it would happen.
Yeah.
And, like, he was mad at his dugout. Like, they had been talking crap. Like, when are you going to hit a home run? And then just kind of, like, rolled the bat to him. It was weird and awkward in my opinion. But d'Arnaud, with a 3 home run game, didn't have anything special.
He hit a homer again the next day. He was on fire and didn't do anything.
I was like, dude, come on. I mean, 3 home run game, your 3rd home run. You should have, like...
Ellie hit 6 homers in 4 days or in 10 days and didn't do a bat flip. Come on, Ellie.
What's happening in the MLB? I feel like last year, every home run was pimped. Like, every single one of them.
Ellie keeps staring down the own dugout and then he, like, drops the bat off the side.
De La Cruz, like, he's a guy that would definitely pimp home runs.
Yeah.
And then
his first career homer versus the Dodgers, with the bat flip after that, bring it back.
So MLB players, all thousands of you that are watching this video, except for POs. I'm kidding, I was a PO actually. PO lives matter. But come on, I'm not saying you to be arrogant and obnoxious about it, but bring it back just a little bit. Like,
I'm saying be arrogant.
Turn up the dial a little bit, you know. I just want to see some more. So Ohtani gets it with a stare down, just kind of dropped the bat. But other than that,
that's why the sunglasses stay on the hat this week. It's not
like
the sunglasses.
Well, I'll put them on. But Ohtani, he just annihilates it. He knows it. Everyone knows it. He just broke the record. Big deal for him, obviously. I mean, to have a record like that, most home runs by a Japanese-born player is awesome. We knew Ohtani was going to get it at some point.
Yeah.
It's finally here. So, just hits it and then just stares it down. Just admires it. He's like, this is my moment, watching it fly, bring on the roses. And then just, rounds the bases and continues to play for the Dodgers. But, kind of a boring week for bat flips. There wasn't really good celebrations from pitchers either. That's kind of gone away. I feel like with when Bauer kind of disappeared from the league, those also kind of disappeared from the league.
I don't know. There was a good Fernando Cruz had a good celebration versus the Angels in his appearance versus the Reds. Got into a jam and then got out of a jam and was super sick coming off the mound.
But he didn't like have a signature or anything like
No,
that. He was just which I love.
He was fired up.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, his splitter this year has been unhittable. It's been amazing, and he's locating his fastball as well. And Alexis Diaz better watch out, because if Diaz can't get his control figured out, Fernando Cruz might be gunning for that closer spot.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, so let's look at the divisions. Let's dissect our weekly division dissect.
The Cardinals are still terrible. That's the most important thing to take away from this.
Yeah, Cardinals are still last in the NL Central. We'll start there because that's our division. Still a really competitive division.
Gosh
really
darn
good.
Brewers!
Yeah, Brewers, I mean, they played the Cardinals last week and they swept the Cardinals, so that didn't help anyone's case in the Central. But, I mean, 14-6 with a 35 run differential. I mean, that's just...
It's upsetting.
Yeah, I mean, they have the same run differential as the Atlanta Braves. If I told you coming into the season that the Brewers have the same run differential as the Atlanta Braves, who play in Truist, which by elevation is the third highest stadium, and it's in Atlanta, so it's super hot, so the ball flies there, and they have equal run differentials.
I would have thought it's because the Brewers shut every team out.
Right. I mean, it is. They've only scored 114 runs in less games than the Braves at 125 runs, but they've only let up 79 runs, allowed 79. So their pitching is just excellent this year. I kind of hoped with Craig Counsell not being there anymore, we wouldn't see the Brewers on
that number's
top of
the
division.
third lowest in baseball, by the way. 79 runs allowed is the third lowest in baseball.
Who's lower?
Guardians 72, Royals 70.
Okay, so both.
Look at the Royals.
Okay. Yeah, both in the AL Central.
Cole Reagans is on fire, dude. Cole Reagans is so good.
But yeah, and then the Cubs split a 4-game set against Miami. Not what you want to see, especially with the way Miami's been playing this year. It's not good at all.
And then the Reds swept the White Sox, then got swept by the Mariners, then swept the Angels. So we're either on sweep or be swept right now. We start a 4-game set with the Phillies tonight. It's Hunter Green versus Ranger Suarez. And anytime Hunter Green pitches in Cincy, I'm concerned. Because if he's slightly off, the ball goes a million feet and we lose by 30. So please, Hunter, be on tonight.
And then the Pirates have started their skid like we said was going to happen. They've lost 6 in a row.
2-8 in their last 10.
Yeah, so...
Just Pirates things.
Yeah, Pirates thing. Best team in baseball, and the Pirates again. The NL East, Braves obviously still on top, but not far behind them at all are the Philadelphia Phillies, backed by their excellent pitching staff, which we'll talk about in just a moment.
Yeah.
And they're only going to get better once Harper gets turned on to Harper. Like, once he's in full form, I mean, it's going to be...
Just have him play the Reds every game. He'll win MVP by a landslide. He sees beach balls when he plays us for some reason. I don't know why, but
there's a few guys like that against the Reds. The New York Mets are starting to turn it up. I mean,
8-2 in their last 10.
Yeah, so I mean they're doing pretty good right now. I didn't expect them to kind of hang around like that.
They're fueled by the inspiration from their new City Connect uniforms.
Those
they're so
awful.
bad.
I cannot stand them. Like he said something that the hats look okay, and he's just wrong. Like. They are the worst City Connect jerseys.
I maintain that the hats are good, but the jerseys themselves might be the worst individual City Connect jerseys.
I think both ones we've had this year are terrible. I hate the Philly Connect ones. I don't
like gradient jerseys in general.
Yeah, and then they go to the black pants. I'm not a big black pant guy in baseball. Yeah. I'm not a big dark jersey guy. But yeah, the Phillies have been bad this year, and the Mets just took it to a whole nother level. Hopefully they don't screw up. The Yankees, they have the Cardinals. I guarantee the Cardinals are going to have a giant arch. It's going to have something to do with the arch. Which
they're going to do it like over the shoulders. It's going to be like a silver
It's going to go into the hat and then like back down.
Yeah, it's going to do the brim of the hat and then down the shoulders.
It's going to have something to do with the arch. I can guarantee.
2 months from now, and that's actually right.
Yeah, if that's right, MLB, you better send us that stuff. And so
why would we want that?
Royalty checks.
Yeah, royalty checks. I don't need Cardinals merch. I would like royalty checks.
Yeah. Washington Nationals,
exist.
Yeah. Miami Marlins being terrible.
They barely exist.
1-2 against the Cubs. Albert Alzolay, the Cubs closer, is struggling heavily this year. He's actually not the closer anymore. Craig Counsell said they're taking a break from Alzolay at the closer role and seeing if they have anybody that can figure it out. I think they're going to slot Keegan Thompson there.
They're taking a break. They're like teenagers dating.
Yeah, so we'll see what develops with the Cubs closer role, but that's something they need to lock down. They've blown 4 saves this year, and one of them was an 8-run lead. So those are wins that they got to have.
I know that feeling.
If they have those 4 wins, I mean, they're in the driver's seat in the Central right now.
Yeah.
So it is a big deal for this team in a division that, I mean, 4 wins can mean a whole lot coming to the end of the season. Moving on to the NL West, Dodgers obviously still in front. However, 3-7 in their last 10, not on form like they were to start the season.
Yeah.
Ohtani still hasn't found his groove. Maybe this record-breaking home run kind of boosts him a little bit.
Most of the division is off right now, though. You look at the Diamondbacks 5-5 in the last 10, Giants 5-5, Padres only at 6-4. It's just
the Giants, a team we thought was going to be a whole lot better than they are. And
Blake Snell's been awful so far. I think that's a big reason why we were both expecting him to be the new ace of that rotation in front of Logan Webb. Even
is this a byproduct of signing late because Boris is your agent?
I mean,
gotta be.
I would think so.
If his next start's good and his next start's good, and
to be
he's
fair,
on after that.
To be fair, last season took him until mid-May to get going, really. So
yeah, but I mean,
it wasn't this.
It doesn't help.
But,
it doesn't help when you sign late and you're not with the team. You have to do a rehab start before you're with the team.
We'll see. Usually, San Francisco, with the ball doesn't fly there. Used a decent park for pitching, but.
And we'll see. I want to see similar numbers with Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah.
With the Diamondbacks, because I think he's making his start this week or next week. His first start with the club after signing even later than Blake Snell, being a Boris agent, which he's already switched agencies. It's not going to be the first or last guy to do that. So I'm interested to see how I keep wanting to say Matt Chapman, Jordan Montgomery's going to do with his first few starts. But the Rockies 5-17, blah 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 blah. The AL East. This one looks a little different than it did last week. The Orioles and Yankees are tied. The Yankees lost earlier today.
Our picks going at it.
Yeah, so Yankees and Orioles are tied for the win.
How about the Red Sox, though?
Yeah, a team that I thought was going to hang around for a little bit and then kind of skid because you have the Blue Jays, who I thought were going to kind of skyrocket them. But the Red Sox still in third, only 2 games back.
The pitching staff, I think, has been surprisingly good. Both Tanner Houck and Brian Bayo have been on fire to start the year. Yeah. I think that's really what can keep this team going. If this young pitching staff can hang around, I think the lineup has enough upside to carry them.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And the Blue Jays, I think they'll figure it out, maybe.
Yeah, but we've said that for 3 years, and they never do.
No, I'm with you. I don't see them making the playoffs at this point in time. I know it's still a very long season, but with the Orioles and Yankees ahead of them, and then some teams we'll get into later in the American League, and if the Red Sox just hang around with what they've been doing all year, the Blue Jays, they just get missed. They don't make the playoffs this year. Yeah,
I'm bored with the Blue Jays at this point. It's the same thing every year. The Toronto sports are all the same. You're downgraded Maple Leafs. I don't know if you guys know anything about hockey. The Maple Leafs make the playoffs every year, then lose immediately, except for last year when they finally broke the streak. Blue Jays just don't even bother making the playoffs and disappoint anyway. At Toronto sports, they're just consistent disappointment, and I'm very bored of it.
Yeah, and then, Vlad Guerrero Jr. is the cover athlete curse a thing this year with him. Jazz Chisholm got sent down.
Wasn't great last year.
He got sent down to the minors last year. Yeah. So that was a bad curse.
They must have put Alek Manoah on the cover then.
No, but Guerrero batting .226 with a .712 OPS. Not a terrible OPS, but not what you want to see from Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Yeah. This is supposed to be the face of the franchise, and he's hitting slightly under league average.
Yeah, just above the Mendoza line. So not exactly what you want to see. And then, let's see. So the AL Central, which is...
This is a fun division right now.
Blowing me away right now. The Cleveland Guardians, 16-6, 6 losses, 16 wins, 10 games above 500.
And just as everyone expected, the best run differential in baseball.
Plus 52 run differential.
It's wild.
They've allowed 72 runs. That's it.
That is 124. That's second to only the Braves, who only have one more at 125.
Yeah.
This is a team that we both thought would struggle immensely to score. Mm-hmm. And then with Shane Bieber going down, you're like, oh, well, they're definitely done. And they just keep winning. Granted, if you look at their schedule, they have not played much of anybody. And the one series they did play versus a good team, the Yankees, they lost the series. Right. So I think jury's still out, but credit to them.
The best team
you can only beat who you play.
The best team they've played that wasn't the Yankees was the Red Sox, and they won 3 out of 4 in a 4-game set against the Red Sox. But the Yankees, they lost 2 out of 3. So yeah, we'll see. They played They played the White Sox twice, and the Mariners,
and Oakland and Minnesota.
Right. So
Minnesota's 7-13.
We'll see. We're not it's fun to talk about them right now, and I mean, if they keep this up, it's going to be fun to watch all year. But I still think the Royals end up winning this division down the stretch.
The Tigers' offense is just not
Yeah,
showing up like I thought it. There's just not enough help outside of Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson. If you keep trotting Javi Baez out there every day in 2024, you got
he's got a walk now,
problems.
sir. He's got a walk.
Okay. I think if
Okay.
I will fully maintain I could never get a hit on Major League pitching, I think I could get walked once in a year.
Yeah, if you go up there, not it's like the thing that happened in spring training last year.
Yeah, with the Dodgers prospect.
Just didn't swing.
Yeah.
Pitchers knew he wasn't going to swing. They still couldn't throw a strike, which is, I mean, it happens.
All I have to do is step in the box versus Aroldis Chapman, and I
Are you going to step in the box versus Aroldis Chapman?
heck no. But if I did, I could get walked.
Yeah, if they make Evo shields for the entire body.
Yeah.
Will
Put me in a medieval body armor. Stick me up in the batter's box.
Fallout power armor.
Can't swing the bat.
Yeah, but the Royals 3 games behind the Guardians as of right now. Tigers 4 games behind the Guardians. Twins 8. White Sox off to a
The
historically
Astros are so
start.
bad.
Well, we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
It's funny. I wanted to.
We'll get there. The White
I
Sox
looked at my screen.
historically bad season. 3-18. They've given up 116 runs and only scored 45. That's a minus 71 run differential. Yikes. And
Yeah.
I mean, they're playing not great talent, but they played some good teams. But still, yikes. Now we're in the AL West. The Rangers are on top in this division, which we thought was going to be a little better.
The Astros are the 4th worst team in baseball right now.
Yeah, Astros dead last in the division. At
It's only
7-16.
White Sox, Marlins, and Rockies that are worse than them.
Ugh, yeah, not good. Not a list you want to be on. But they're only 5 games back. So, I mean, that the White Sox are 12 and a half games back.
Yeah,
So, I mean, hey, they got a better shot than some of those
it's
teams.
true.
Yeah, Mariners half a game back from the Rangers. The Angels 2.5 games back. And the Oakland Athletics are 3 games out of winning the division on week 4.
It's still possible.
Yeah, it's week 4. But it's possible as of right now.
Zach Galoff to victory.
But the Mariners only have to get back. I think you're going to see the Mariners and Rangers kind of flip flop all year. Once the Mariners start hitting, they've had a rough
If
start.
the Mariners start hitting.
I think they'll find their stride.
If Luis Castillo remembers how to pitch.
Yeah, he's given up a lot of runs this year.
Yeah.
So
I think that's
he can
a lot of the reason why this team has struggled to win is George Kirby and Luis Castillo have both been off to horrific starts. And those are supposed to be 2 and 3 in your rotation after Logan
And
Gibson.
that crushes a team. I mean,
Yeah.
if a guy like Luis Castillo, who we've talked about in the Cy Young conversation, and he goes out there and just lays an egg every time, then your team's kind of just,
It's like Reds
Man.
Luis Castillo.
yeah, I mean, your team just kind of lays down and they just can't hit. So hopefully either the hitting side or the pitching side finds their stride and they can make a push for the division or at this point the wild card maybe. But we'll just have to.
No,
Watch
I
that
don't
unfold
think
and
any
see.
of those teams can make a wild card spot. If you look at, I honestly think the wild card teams are all going to be AL East, AL
They
Central.
all come from the I think you were going to say they all come from the East. I
See,
think
you said
them are gonna
they all come from the East, but Tampa Bay Devil Rays Devil Magic, I think, is still a thing.
they used it all. I think that kind of went away. I think even the Devil took a step down when all that Wander Franco stuff came out. He goes,
Just wait until they trade for a pitcher you've never heard of at the deadline that ends up winning reliever of the year somehow.
yeah,
It's gonna happen.
It'll be a Cubs prospect like always. No, but yeah, so that's our division dissect for this week. A lot of interesting things to look out for. But like we said, it's still early. I mean, we're obviously over exaggerating with every playoff decision we're making from here on out
Yeah.
until like 3 weeks left. But yeah, so we talked about the Phillies and how they've been hot recently, backed by their pitching. Their rotation, a 1.51 ERA this is over their last homestand, by the way. 1.51 ERA, went 6+ innings 8 times in 10 games, 1 shutout. They carried 1 no-no into the 8th, another into the 7th, K'd 75 and only walked 20 in 65 and 2/3 innings. 75 Ks in 65 and 2/3 innings. Nuts.
I think that's good.
Yeah, I think so too. Granted, most of this was with the White Sox and Rockies. However, still impressive.
Yeah.
Still very, very impressive.
Although the White Sox couldn't hit a beach ball with a cricket bat right now, so.
That is true. And the Rockies aren't hitting that much better either. But just the confidence boost alone from that, they could probably carry for another month. I mean, unless they just get rocked by the Cincinnati this week and whoever they play after that, then
We're
maybe
gonna
not.
get killed.
But God, that rotation right now, it's got to be just feeling themselves.
They have
I mean,
two aces,
chains
honestly.
popping, unbuttoned shirts, just it's our league, man. It's our league.
It's already so good. The two aces you come in with Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, and then how Ranger Suarez is pitching right now, it's hard not to feel like you almost have three aces to start the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm glad they're not in the Central. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, Suarez right now he's 3-0, but his ERA is still under 2 at this point in the season.
It's. I'm excited for them, and I do. Phillies are my team in the AL East just because I can't stand the Braves. If you're Braves fan watching this, just know your fan base is terrible. But I do respect the passion y'all have. I will say, but yeah, just super fun. And like we said, if Bryce Harper can figure his stuff out,
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun to watch Phillies, man. I mean, they're always a fun team to watch with Kyle Schwarber batting 200, hitting 8,000 bombs.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch. But you got anything else for MLB?
Nick Lodolo is still very good at baseball. He went 6 1/3, struck out 6, only allowed 7 base runners. He is the ace of the Reds pitching staff. I know when they both were coming up through the minors, it was supposed to be Hunter Green, but Nick Lodolo is the ace. Please, please, please stay healthy. Please stay healthy.
Yeah. But with all that being said, we're gonna move to NASCAR. It was DEGA weekend, one of my favorite weekends of the year. It happens twice a year. I'm super excited for the playoff race in October. Yeah, I mean, it's just gonna be. It's so hard to talk about because.
It's not hard to talk about for me.
Yeah, Tyler Reddick won.
Tyler Reddick won. I have the Jordan car in the studio today. Got the hat on.
But I called. I mean, y'all have watched this. I called Brad Kay to win this race 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And for him to be so close, if you want to learn how to drive, if you play iRacing or whatever, and you want to learn how to win at Talladega, watch Brad Keselowski's last lap.
He's so good.
Masterclass. Did nothing wrong, and that's why it's so.
Don't even watch just the last lap. Watch that entire last run. It was a clinic in how to time your runs, how to push a guy, keep a guy in the front, not get to the lead yourself, be able to save that fuel when that was still a factor. He did everything perfectly. And even though as a Reddick fan, I'm super happy to see him get the win, part of me does feel for Keselowski because he did absolutely nothing wrong, and just one block too many from McDowell took him out of it.
So, for those of you that don't know what happened, coming out of the tri-oval, Brad Keselowski got a run because he had been running second behind McDowell almost for 30 laps at this point, and he did not want to be out in front. If he wanted to take the lead, he probably could have whenever he wanted to. Whenever Michael McDowell went up to block Reddick, he could have grabbed the lead. He didn't want to. He's been there before. He's won at Talladega before. I've seen him do it in person twice. His last win came at Talladega in 2021. He knows what he's doing. He did not want to be in the lead coming out of the tri-oval. So, going into the tri-oval, he gets a run. He goes up. McDowell sees this. Great block by McDowell. A+ McDowell. Good job.
Yes.
However, your next block was not as good. Then, Brad Keselowski goes down right on top of the nose of Noah Gragson. Doesn't hit Noah Gragson. Perfect timing to get in front of Noah Gragson, to get Noah Gragson's push. Noah Gragson pushes Keselowski. He's got the win at this point. But McDowell decides, it's not good enough. I know Ford needs a win, and there's 3 of us in the top 4 right now, and Ford's 100% going to win this race. Takes out himself trying to block Keselowski. Slows Keselowski and Gragson down just enough for the outside line, led by Tyler Reddick, to come through. And by the time the caution is thrown, Reddick is your winner.
Yeah, it stinks for Keselowski for sure, but I don't think you can fault McDowell. You can't fault a guy for trying to win the race.
No, I don't fault him. I do think the Ford team meeting may be a little interesting because they haven't won all year. They had such a good shot and they blew it. Not as bad as the Toyotas will, and we'll get to that. But they blew it. So Tyler Reddick got the win. Michael Jordan was in attendance, which is great for NASCAR to see because he does transcend the sport.
That's the only way NASCAR makes ESPN, by the way.
Right.
NASCAR's made ESPN twice this year, and it was the Atlanta finish was on Top Plays, and you could tell the anchors had no idea what to say. They were like, cars. And then now Michael Jordan was in a NASCAR race, and they're like, basketball and didn't
Yeah.
mention the what was the headline that you sent me?
It was
celebrates with
Micah
NASCAR
celebrates with winning NASCAR team car or something like that. Something so basic. Like they didn't give Tyler Reddick any props or anything. It was just NASCAR racing team won. Michael Jordan in attendance. Like I do get it though. But please just learn a little bit of vocabulary. Learn a little bit of vocabulary for me. But yeah, 2311 is only the fourth team to win this year. You have Hendrick, who's won most of the races. Gibbs after them. You have
the one Trackhouse win.
Trackhouse, which was could have
an accident.
Right. That was a wild card, if you will. And now you have 2311, who I do expect to win another race this year. Just because I think they are pretty similar to Gibbs.
Yes, Tyler Reddick's winning the championship.
Yeah. But no, so only the fourth team to win, which is really interesting. Ford still winless, which probably will continue for, at this point, a while. I mean, I was joking earlier saying they're going to have 6 drivers win at Daytona, the last race of the season, in must-win situations to make it into the playoffs.
Don't worry, Ryan Blaney's winning Pocono.
Okay, I can see Ryan Blaney win over any other Ford driver. Maybe Buescher at a track.
Ryan Blaney's winning Pocono.
Okay, well, are we locking that in?
We're locking that in. Ryan Blaney's winning Pocono. I can't wait for you
to choose someone else at Pocono when we get there.
I can't wait for him to get wrecked out on lap 2.
So we'll rate the burnout or lack of burnout. I was gonna give it a 1 because his first burnout was horrendous. He saved it on the second one, so I'll go to a 2. But I was so sad.
I've gone with a 5 because the first burnout.
You went with a 5 because it's 45. That's why.
No, because first
anybody else, it'd be a 2.
No, it's because I'm severely OCD, and the second burnout made a perfect circle on the start-finish line, and it looked really cool. The first burnout though was the optics of it were terrible. He was like in the grass. There was an ambulance in the background. You're like, this is not it. So if it would have been that one, I think I would have given it like a 2. But I think the second burnout was good. Then the climb of the fence.
I loved his energy. His energy was awesome.
The fence climb was one of the coolest things I've seen in a while. He got all the way up there.
Yeah, he did. And then he got stuck on the way down. And it was just, I could think of, because I remember climbing fences like that at baseball fields when I was a kid and going like, oh crap, I gotta get down now.
Oh, he's so short, too. It has to feel like a 20-story fall.
He looked like a little kid just like, oh crap, I gotta get down now.
Did you see the height difference between him and Michael Jordan in Victory Lane?
Yeah. And Michael Jordan had his kid on his shoulders, and then
Tyler Reddick's is the height difference between Tyler Reddick and Michael Jordan.
Yeah. It's always funny, especially because, NASCAR drivers aren't necessarily tall, and when Michael Jordan walks around the track.
But Tyler Reddick is even shorter.
He's like this, yeah. But yeah, burnout wasn't great. Energy was great. But that's what happens. You win like that at Talladega, you can't help but, freak out. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But a big debate has sparked. Actually, no, first. Let's scratch that. Toyota.
Now, let's talk about fuel first.
You talk about, okay.
Yes.
A big debate has sparked after this race. Fuel-saving races at super speedways. Do we like them? Do we not like them? I think it's 50-50. Maybe 60-40 of people who don't like the fuel-saving race. I kind of like it. I don't like when they're going super slow to save fuel, and I like the strategy call of McDowell at the end saying, or McDowell and Toyota really, saying, we're forcing guys to pit. We're going to run wide open. Make them pit. I love the strategy part of it at a super speedway because it gives strategy to a super speedway, something you can control. But like I said, I don't like when they're going 4 to 5 seconds slower to save fuel. And I think something that could help, which I don't think will happen, Eric Estep had mentioned this before, and get rid of stage brakes or stage cautions at the stage brakes.
Get rid of all stage cautions.
I think that would help this because then you're not guaranteed that pit stop. Then this fuel saving really, I think they run wide open and just change your strategy.
I would say for people that are really against fuel saving, I would say devil's advocate to that is, okay, would you rather watch fuel saving where it's 3x3x3x3 or 2x2 for most of the race, or 30 cars in a line right up next to the wall? Because if you don't have fuel saving, that's what it is. Yeah. For probably 135 out of 188 laps, it's 30 cars in the line up against the wall. So if you would like to see that, feel free to take away fuel saving. I love fast cars as much as the next person, but frankly, I find 2x2x2 or 3x3x3 a lot more entertaining. Because I also think that there's a skill element to this fuel saving. You saw it with drivers like Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch.
BJ McLeod ran to the top of the field in the first stage, ran out of.
Yeah, it's another skill to implement at these super speedways, and I think that different tracks are going to have their different strengths. Like there's guys who excel on road courses because their ability to pick lines and they're really adept at braking. And then the super speedways might be this. This is the skill set. To be successful at super speedways, you need to know when to pick your runs, you need to know when to make your moves, and you need to know how to save fuel effectively. I think it's a nice other wrinkle to throw into this, so I like it.
I will say, I do think there's an issue. I don't think the next gen car can race at the top of Talladega. I don't think the third line works. Because the third line worked when they're going a little bit slower when they're saving fuel. But as soon as the race started, they quit saving fuel.
Well, to be fair, it also got axe chopped by Ty
But even before that, it couldn't really get.
No, it was still go. They would pass about 4 cars down the backstretch, and then they would lose 2 on the front.
Well, that was the third attempt. There was multiple attempts behind Larson and Elliott to try to get that lane moving, and it just didn't work until Elliott went out.
Yeah, but it's also never going to work if you only have 3 cars. So
that is true, but I need to see more evidence that the third lane consistently works when they're pushing all they got. Because I feel like someone, if they were confident in it, you would have seen Busch move up a whole lot sooner and gotten somebody behind him to go with them.
It's almost like we should increase horsepower.
I thought we were going to go a show without saying the word horsepower, but here we are again.
Anyway, speaking of fuel savings thing, one great way to kind of shake up and not have to worry about fuel is do what Toyota did.
Pit and make everybody else have to push or pit.
Because
great. Perfect strategy call.
And then another way to worry about not having to save fuel
is if your car is in the garage. If your car is in the garage, you save money on fuel, you save money on paying the pit crew,
money on tires.
You save all this money. They were geniuses. We just didn't know it at the time.
Sponsors were on TV over and over and over. It's a great marketing move from Toyota.
They still got the win somehow.
The word Toyota was said so many times.
Look, if they hadn't wrecked out in all seriousness, any one of those Toyotas probably would have won the race.
Yeah.
I think...
And Tyler Reddick was in the front of that line anyway, so...
Right, that's what I'm saying. But that's why he won, because he was there. I think if you don't have that kerfuffle, to quote Kevin Harvick...
no, the word of the week was hullabaloo this week.
Yeah, that one was bad.
Or as Kevin Harvick said first time, hullaboo.
Yeah. And he said it was on lap 1, I think. He didn't wait at all.
The silence after he said that was golden.
Come on, what? What'd you just say? But yeah, so I think the Toyota wins without question if they all are in the race.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They took themselves out. And
to be fair, they only took out the NPC Toyota drivers and then Denny Hamlin.
I was about to say, yeah. And then they all got in the wall, and then all of a sudden you see a car twice on Denny Hamlin, and he's gone too. Which is kind of fun.
The Lord's work.
Yeah, but all right. Let's move to Dover. We had the Monster Mile this weekend. Dover, an interesting track. What do you think we're going to see?
Well, it's 2017, so I think we're going to see an easy Jimmy Johnson win at Dover. Anyway, Dover is weird. I'm just so worried about the ability to pass. I'm always worried about the ability to pass. This next-gen car just feels like on these short tracks, it's just set in rails and it's impossible to pass anyone. I think someone who starts in the top 5 probably wins the race unless you see something like Bristol tire wear or crazy strategy thing or something. But
yeah,
I think it's going to be a very straightforward race, and I'm going to go Christopher Bell. He's kind of the junior Martin Truex Jr. now. Martin Truex III in the way he wins races.
He was hot at the beginning. He's kind of quiet down. He was dead last yesterday.
I think this is a great opportunity for a bounce back for him.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I'm going to take the actual Martin Truex Jr. Yeah. I think he gets his first dub of the season. Yeah, home race. He's been great here. Won here last year. Doing great at these tracks. He's been consistent all year. Just hasn't crossed the finish line ahead of everybody else yet. His closest 2 races.
In Richmond when I picked him to.
In Bristol. I mean, his closest 2 races were shorter tracks.
Yeah.
So I got him winning it over this weekend. I think that's sound advice. If you're a betting man,
It's good logic.
Martin Truex is probably gonna be the favorite. So look at the numbers and see how that shakes
And bet
out.
on Christopher Bell to finish third.
Yeah, or have something explode in the lap 7.
Leading the race with 2 laps to go, and then his brake line falls off.
Yeah, like it did in the championship last year. But
It's a brake rotor.
right, whatever. A lot of F1 to talk about this week with the Chinese Grand Prix and sprint race.
Yes.
That was fun. So let's break it down.
First sprint weekend of the season, and it was very entertaining.
It was way better than the race.
Yeah, sprint qualifying was good. You had a wet SQ3, and you had a rare Max Verstappen off day. He was going off the track, left, right, and center. Lando Norris got the sprint pole, lined up next to Lewis Hamilton, who's going to Verstappen won by 13 seconds. But into turn 1, it was great between Hamilton and Norris. Norris, I think, just kept it in there too long. You got to know eventually you can't keep hanging it around the outside there, and he ran off the track, really ruined his sprint entirely, and it ended up finishing all the way down in 6th. But Lewis Hamilton, I was really hoping he was going to get the win in the sprint. Ended up coming home 2nd. Really, really good performance from him. And then you also had some great wheel-to-wheel battles with Perez, Leclerc, Sainz, and Alonso all together. That was super entertaining. Alonso ended up actually getting a penalty for that. But I don't know. I feel like that
racing, that whole lap,
yeah,
3-lap thing was great.
That Alonso move is one where, as two people who grew up watching NASCAR, it's like that's not a penalty, but
I think it's a little
by the letter of the F1 law, that's technically a penalty. But as a firm believer of Rubbin's racing, I think you let that one slide.
I watch F1 a lot, and they give a lot of penalties, and I'm just like, that's so soft. Let them race.
Yeah,
I get it. I mean, these cars are more dangerous and faster and more expensive.
Speaking of dangerous, let's talk about Lance Stroll moving over to the race on Sunday, which Verstappen won again, but Lance Stroll did his best Daniel Kvyat torpedo impression at the same track where that famous quote was created. And it's just, you look at the onboard, and he's so clearly looking at the apex of the corner instead of Daniel Ricciardo's rear wing, which he proceeds to drive under like a wedge. And then after the race, he blamed it on Ricciardo and said, well, the guys all stacked up in front of me. Well, no one else hit the other cars.
Everyone stacked up, and they all did the exact same thing, hit their brakes in time.
It just sounds textbook billionaire son who's never been blamed for anything in his life.
Yeah.
It's Lance Stroll is a waste of a seat. He keeps getting worse and worse and worse. You've brought in Fernando Alonso to try to push him to get better. Alonso's consistently humiliating him. And then you go out and say, well, the whole project's about Lance Stroll. Is the whole project about finishing 14th every week? What are we doing? It's a complete waste of a seat. He's incompetent. He keeps crashing out cars. Almost took out Kevin Magnussen later in the race in those two disasters fighting for 16th.
Which was actually pretty good racing. It was probably the best racing.
Yeah,
it was fun to watch.
After Kevin Magnussen did his own torpedo and took out Yuki Tsunoda, it's just... Lance Stroll especially, what are you doing? Go play tennis.
And then Lewis Hamilton having an opposite kind of day for a sprint race, finished 9th.
Qualified 18th.
Yeah.
Just a bad race. He couldn't really move up through the field too much either.
Yeah.
But great race from Lando Norris, who redeemed himself for the sprint, got all the way up into 2nd place, finished on the podium. Great one-stop strategy, helped out by a virtual safety car, and then was able to stay ahead of Sergio
Real safety car.
Yeah. When he pitted, it was a VSC.
Right. I know a lot of people thought Perez was kind of going to get him, but he held on.
Yeah.
He held his ground, and it worked out for him.
Perez just did not have the pace this weekend. Struggled on the low grip.
Yeah. But all in all, I mean, a good, non-super boring weekend. I know Max Verstappen led most of the
Solid
race.
6 out of 10, I'd say.
I can agree with that. I think the sprint race is a little better. Which, I mean, I don't know how Verstappen won 13 seconds in that short of a race. He probably, honestly, without the safety cars, he probably wins this race by like 2 minutes.
Yeah, he won by 13 seconds in the actual race, too.
Yeah. But, yeah, no, not a bad week. In 2 weeks, we have Miami, which is always fun. Just a fun environment.
It's a fun environment. It's a terrible track, though.
Yeah.
It's a horrific track.
Fun kind of build up to it.
Just nuke the track at this point.
Yeah. But
Miami.
Miami,
And
they got Inter Miami now. They're all down the up and up. Exactly. I like the Dolphins.
Okay.
Hey man, a lot of people like the Dolphins. Before you say anything too bad,
is anyone gonna miss the Marlins though?
I like that stadium. That stadium needs to be redone. That was
Bring back the giant fish sculpture and the green walls.
yeah. Well, I think they still have the green walls.
No, they're blue.
Oh yeah, because they changed their whole color.
Yeah.
That's right.
And bring back Giancarlo Stanton, Christian Yelich, Marcelo Ozuna.
The
Who
best
else?
outfield in the world.
Zach Gallen. Who else is a Miami Marlin? Anyway, we're talking.
Yeah. All right.
We're way off topic.
That's all we got for you this week.
Yeah.
We'll see y'all next week. Adios.